Hello and welcome to Rethinking Intelligence. I'm your host, Cindy Dickman. As with most of the episodes, I introduce them by saying I'm so excited, but today I am really excited because this is a discussion, a topic that has been with me for a couple years, and I was first introduced to it in grad school. And actually, I eventually worked on writing my thesis on it. I felt it held some really valuable information for the high intelligence population, but it is typically not thought about or applied to this population. And I feel that there's some really good, as they say, gold nuggets in here for us. So if you've listened to any previous episodes, I mentioned that this person can often experience challenges with executive functioning, such as the day-to-day functioning. Remembering to brush teeth, eat, put groceries away when you get home from the grocery, effective time management. In addition to this, they can often find social situations confusing, frustrating, or challenging. So today what we're going to talk about are it's a combo system in the brain, implicit and explicit systems. It's like a 2-for-1 deal. They work together. The implicit is the unconscious working of the brain. It is kind of the habit center that when we repeat something enough times, it becomes a habit, so we don't have to consciously think about it. That's the implicit part of this system. And explicit is the conscious piece of our brain. It's the memorization center where we memorize the facts and figures and the numbers. This is where this population excels in school, their ability to memorize this information. But here's where the difference is that current research is showing that for both memory and theory of mind, and memory is just the recall of information, how to use it when we need to. And theory of mind is that social piece of understanding perhaps what's going on in someone else's mind, their perspective, the social piece. So what we are finding is that the research is showing that both the memory and the theory of mind in this high intelligence brain is biased towards the explicit, meaning the memorization piece. And this is super important for several reasons. Because this person can often feel overwhelmed and stressed. And when we consider this information, if they have a leaning towards relying more on the explicit, that memorization, the conscious part of the brain, that means that most of their day they are consciously having to recall, okay, this is what I do now. Oh, okay, this is how I'm supposed to respond to this person in this situation. Oh, we have a different situation now. Okay, how am I supposed to respond here? So it's all very consciously brought into their brain, and that's really not how we're meant to go through our day. It's supposed to go back and forth between implicit and explicit to where the habits come up and just kind of take over. And then when we need to, we can recall those facts and numbers. But in this brain, it is all, not all, but it leans towards having to consciously bring up the social piece. It doesn't just land with the facts, but it's the social piece and the executive functioning piece all land within that the explicit piece. And honestly, the brain is not meant to handle that amount of information on the daily. And it can be incredibly exhausting. And so I think this is one reason why we see people checking out. And I know we've talked about several reasons for this, like checking out when they get home, or doing what we might think of as, well, they're really smart, but why aren't they doing that? Why aren't they responding to a social situation? They're coming across rude, heady, unkind. Why do they not remember to do basic personal hygiene? Why can't they remember to, where I'm married to someone? Why can't they just remember common things about our relationship that should just be normal? And I think this is where we begin to see it break down, because it's not, their brain doesn't dominantly work on let's make things habits and then we can draw from those habits. And so I have some really interesting examples that to kind of highlight this. And one of them is incredibly popular, well known, Steve Jobs. And when we think of him, what is one thing that comes to mind? At least for me, it was how he dressed. Blue jeans, black shirt. Like when I think of him and his picture comes up in my mind, it is that. Perhaps it was intentional on his part, but what he was doing, he was taking something that his brain didn't really make a habit of, like, I need to dress in the morning. And it was explicit. I have to consciously remind myself to dress. That could be really overloading. So what did he choose to do? Let me get the same clothes and remove that stress, make it a habit of, I don't even have to think about it. I know exactly what I'm wearing every single day. So that is more of that executive functioning piece. The second example is, and I may have mentioned it before, but I remember when one of our sons was young, I would remind him to say hi whenever someone said hi to him. It never really caught on as a habit for him that he would automatically respond hi. It's something that each time I know we were meeting with someone, I'd be like, don't forget to say hi. And even with this, instead of saying hi, he would turn around, face the opposite direction with his back towards the person who had said hi to him. And I really wanted to understand this. And so when I was talking with him, I realized it was just too stressful for him to remember what to consciously do in these social situations. Part of that theory of mind system difference that we are seeing here. So I feel like here's a good place to turn from the why. Why is this behavior here? And to talk about what to do. Can we mitigate it? Can we make it easier? Can we reduce some of the stress? And so here's the gold nugget for you. Take it, think about it. The implicit system works on repetition, as I said, which is kind of like habit. The explicit system runs on memorization. And if I could have understood this simple concept earlier, life may have been very different for me as a parent when our boys were young. So, an example, applying this to our son, I remember I used to say, remember to say hi, remember. And I wasn't realizing that he was consciously trying to memorize this, and without the ability for it just to become a habit. And this is what became very stressful for him. So why engage in social situations if I feel this much stress about it? So understanding what to do now, I would have worked on the repetition, the habit piece with him, rather than just reminding him. And I would have him actually practice, say hi to me, hi to his brother, his dad, even our dog. But remembering that what he needed was repetition of saying hi. Another different example, and this is more on the memory piece. We just talked about the theory of mind or the social cognition piece. This one is, I was working with a client who was experiencing significant challenges and stress due to time management. And so, and at least that's what we thought it was, time management, until we got in there. And when we looked at his day, we found lots of areas where he could actually use repetition or habit to automate certain decisions and free up that mental load on him. So we looked at his day and we ordered his day between the things he could automate and make habit, and then he could fill in with all the other things that he would like to do. And so one example is for breakfast. Is there a way that you can automate breakfast? Can you think of 2 or 3 things that you can eat for breakfast throughout your week that you can have on the ready that you don't even have to think about? You can just walk through the kitchen, okay, breakfast, and just go grab one without having to consciously say, okay, there's breakfast, but now what am I going to do with that information? Now I have to make a decision. And also, working out was really important to him. So finding that time of the day to where that would just go on his schedule and making it that habit that he didn't deviate from that. And he could always fit it in without trying to hold in his mind kind of as a fact, memorizing, oh, I want to work out. Remember, you want to work out. Remember, you want to work out. So actually writing it in and offloading that need to memorize that that's something that he wanted to do and make it something very tangible on his schedule. It could offload that off of his mind. So we went through and we worked through his whole day in this manner. And what we found out was that when we scheduled out his day, he found his stress level dropped, his productivity increased, in addition to self-confidence, and he had more time to do the things that he really wanted to do. So I know there are so many books out there and so many speakers talking about the importance of scheduling, but I think for this population, it can be scheduling, but I think it's coming from a deeper, richer understanding of how our brain works, that how important offloading is for this brain type. We need to offload. And how can we automate? Where in our day can we automate? Repetition is the key, not memorizing. So I hope you have some fun exploring this with yourself, a loved one, or your child. And always remembering that there is nothing wrong with you or your loved one or your child because you have to think about them differently or yourself differently. There's nothing wrong with you. But it is the importance in knowing how your brain works, how our brains work, so they can function optimally. And before we close today, I do want to give a shout out to the hardworking researchers whose research I used as the basis for my discussion today. Boskirk and Ayak for their theory of mind research, and Kuhn et al. At UCLA for the memory piece. As always, thank you for listening, and until next time.